To all of the beginning middle school educators, hello. My name is Tariq Farmer, and I am in my senior year at the University of West Georgia. I am nearing the end of this semester's educational psychology course, which was given by Professor Yan Yang. Throughout this video, I aim to share 4 fundamental tips that have stood out to me as invaluable cornerstones for any educators beginning their journey. Whether you are just about to begin your first job as an educator in a school or just beginning to define your teaching skills as a newcomer in an educational program, I believe these insights will serve as a compass that guides you through the various intricacies of the classroom. So join me as we delve into these tips, each one crafted from a blend of academic learning and real-world application. These tips will also be accompanied by theories and the people who developed them. They're designed to empower you, the budding educator, with the tools and insights necessary to kickstart a successful and hopefully rewarding career in the classroom. Let's explore the foundational principles that can pave a way for an impactful and fulfilling teaching experience. We'll begin by viewing the 4 tips that I have prepared for you. The 4 tips I have for you are here. The first is that you should reward the right way. I've added a tagline that says, to reward or to not reward, that is the question, a little Shakespearean humor. The second is that self-efficacy goes both ways, and confidence is key. The third is that grades aren't everything, and we have to remember that students are more than a number or an average. And the fourth and final one is to embrace EdTech. Of course, technology never hurt anyone. Before I get into the 4 tips I have for you, I wanted to explain a bit about my field experiences. The first was done on motivation and the second on assessments. They were done as mostly interviews with my colleagues at the middle school I work at, and were done with mainly ELA teachers, with the exception of a math and social studies teacher. And finally, I'd like to add that even though the data I collected were primarily from ELA teachers, the tips that I have are applicable to all grade levels and content areas, so I don't think there would be a problem with using these inside of a classroom anywhere. The first tip I have is to use classroom awards in the right way. I found that using rewards in the classroom is a great way to motivate students as long as it doesn't become the basis of their motivation and learning. This tip originates from B.F. Skinner's 1938 theory of operant conditioning. And yes, I know conditioning isn't something that is typically thought of outside of training pets or, your hair, but I believe that it has a special and rightful place in the classroom. The whole idea has to do with the way teachers implement reinforcements to yield specific behaviors from their students. Skinner developed this theory with rats and behaviors surrounding their food, but let's at least try to equate this to students. Basically, if a teacher has a desired behavior that he or she wants to see in their students, rewarding them will help to reinforce that behavior and increase the likelihood of it being repeated. The only downside to this is the risk of students becoming dependent on rewards, or of course extinction, which is the disappearance of a previously reinforced behavior in the absence of the reinforcer or reward. In my field interviews, a teacher whom I'll call Miss Ogilvy said that she uses our school's PBIS point system, which is an in-school cryptocurrency, very cautiously, and with implemented goal setting to make sure that students' mindsets aren't completely towards these rewards. I think that pairing goals with these rewards or reinforcers is a great way to motivate students to achieve higher. And essentially, it's all about building intrinsic motivations in students so that they have the innate desire to do well on their own with or without rewards. I found in my experience as a first-year teacher that you never want to find yourself in a situation where students are always expecting a reward. Once you don't provide those rewards, their effort and interest will likely decrease, and it will be difficult for them to get anything out of your lessons. The second tip I have is to do everything you can do to build self-efficacy in your students as well as in yourself. If you're not familiar with this term, self-efficacy is defined as an individual's belief in their capacity to act in the ways necessary to reach specific goals. Self-efficacy theory was developed as an offshoot of social cognitive theory in 1977, and in 1986 and 1997. The four factors that contribute to it are mastery experiences, vicarious experiences, verbal persuasion, and psychological states. I believe that it is important because it allows us to recognize that students can only be motivated when they believe they can be successful. In my field experiences and in my own classroom, I have observed that students who have high self-efficacy are more likely to be motivated and engaged in their learning. Despite this, many teachers that I interviewed said that the students they teach don't have sufficient levels of self-efficacy and therefore aren't as motivated to achieve higher scores and goals. This is why I think it is important for teachers to approach every encounter with students with a desire to inspire. And I know, it's a clever rhyme, but it's true. Oftentimes, teachers are the only adults in a student's life who actively encourage and motivate students to do their best. This should be goal number one for every teacher. Now, for teachers themselves, self-efficacy is crucial for their own success and the success of their students. It is my belief that teachers who don't have confidence in their ability to be successful in the classroom are less likely to inspire their students in any way. That is why it is important for teachers to seek out ways to develop their self-efficacy and to set their own personal goals for self-improvement. This can be done through professional development opportunities, through a mentor or a coach, or by seeking out resources to help them improve their teaching practices and strategies. Teachers who are self-efficient and have high self-confidence are more prepared for whatever may arise in a classroom and can cause continuous growth for their students. Just personally, in the school that I work at right now, we have days that are set aside just for professional development. And I think that many schools, if they already don't, should include this in their schedule just so their teachers can be as prepared as possible. My third tip is to see students as more than their grades. What I mean by this is that as teachers, we are more inclined to focus on students' grades and test scores than the actual person we are teaching. We have to tap into our time in grade school and see them as individuals with motivations and problems that are very real to them. This isn't to say that grades are important, because they are. However, I believe that teachers need to be willing to dig deeper and see the whole person rather than just a grade. In my field interviews, I noticed that a lot of teachers have a tendency to use tests to gauge students' understanding and to gauge their abilities, but never consider any outside factors that may be affecting their students' performance. One thing I believe that could combat this is an increased focus on formative assessments. Formative assessments are designed to gauge students' learning and how they are progressing. Focusing more on these assessments and less on the end grade students get from their summative counterparts would allow teachers to pinpoint where the students are struggling and how outside factors may be affecting their understanding of certain topics. By taking a more holistic approach to assessing students' progress, educators can gain a deeper understanding of their students' individual needs and provide the necessary support. They can also help identify any gaps in the students' knowledge early on, allowing teachers to address these areas before they become major roadblocks to learning. By placing less emphasis on grades and more focus on formative assessments, students may feel less pressure to simply memorize information for the sake of getting a good grade, and instead engage in a more meaningful and comprehensive learning experiences that focused on mastery goals. And ultimately, this shift in assessment practices can lead to a more well-rounded educational environment that prioritizes the growth and development of each student. My fourth and final tip is to do your research and embrace EdTech tools with open arms. EdTech is short for educational technology and is basically the application of technology to learning. What I find interesting about it is that it can fulfill any number of sections in Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is a classification system used to define and distinguish different levels of human cognition, which are thinking, learning, and understanding. It was developed by Benjamin Bloom and his associates in 1956. Currently, the levels are remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. What I think is so great about EdTech is that it can be used to do or create almost anything, which fulfills the last level of the taxonomy. Some of the EdTech tools that I find most useful are Google Classroom, Anchor, and Storyboard. Using these tools, students are able to create stories, share their ideas on podcasts, and have conversations through the use of online discussions. I find these tools to be extremely helpful in an age where students are so immersed in technology. It can be a great way to get and keep students engaged in the classroom, as well as to encourage them to think and learn outside of the box. Students find these tools to be fun and creative, and I do not think there's a more effective way to both teach effectively and foster a love for learning. My field interviews were filled with teachers using these tools to enhance their students' learning, and I think that as we get further into this technological age, we will be seeing more and more of their use in the classroom. For example, a teacher that I'll call Ms. Colin said that she uses EdTech platforms like EdTech and iExcel to gauge the quality of her students' learning and to see what they're struggling with and how she can change the way she teaches to fit their needs. These platforms are great because they allow teachers to become more flexible and able to give students the individualized attention that they need to succeed. Ultimately, EdTech allows for personalized learning experiences that caters to students' individual needs and learning styles. They're great opportunities for students to explore and delve deeper into topics they're passionate about, and they promote critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Also, educators can track and monitor student progress, which allows for timely interventions and personalized feedback. Finally, thank you for watching this video. Hopefully these tips will help you in your journey to becoming a great educator. And next are the references I used to make this.